Welcome back to the show. Juan Soto is a Met, a massive 15-year contract, right around halftime of the Sunday Night Football game. That's when it came down.
I actually went to bed.
What's wrong with you?
I'm tired.
Well, it's the biggest sports story in such
I didn't
a long
know it was
time.
going to break.
Everybody said it was going to happen Sunday night.
He should have stayed up, waiting, staring at his phone. Come on.
I did.
Well, you're a loser. No offense.
And you know who I kept checking out, though?
I bet you Andy Martino.
No.
Stop it.
I'm just kidding.
Checked out the Hay Monster.
I can
of
see the
course.
picture.
And he had it first.
Heyman is technically the breaker.
Yeah, he's
the
the
breaker.
Yeah, and he broke it yesterday. Followed by Martino and Passan. But you know what? Heyman had it first.
That's right.
Of the New York Post, and he joins us now. Hi, John. How you doing?
Hi, Michael. How are you? How are you guys doing?
We're doing wonderfully. Not as good as Juan Soto. I heard two things today, John. One I've read about, one I didn't hear until I found out from somebody that last weekend, David Stearns met with Juan Soto in Florida and came away thinking the Mets have no chance to get him. And that early yesterday, the Mets were resigned to the fact that he was going back to the Yankees. Are those two things true, and what changed, if they are?
Yeah, they had another meeting, and they didn't think they were getting him. And I can tell you from talking to both teams throughout the weekend, the Yankees seemed much more confident than the Mets. And, it's a little bit shocking in a way, but, of course, when he first went to the Yankees, I think I wrote, watch out for him to be a Met in a year, and people didn't like that too much. I think I did that on day one. I should have waited a day. And of course, when the free agency started, I think a lot of people predicted that Steve Cohen was going to win the bidding. Naturally, I did. Many people did. But then throughout the weekend, the Yankees felt much better about it. I wrote in the Post they were in the ball. Both teams were in the low 700s, and I mean, you thought that if it was close, he'd probably go back to the Yankees, and ultimately he did not. The Mets did not feel great about their chances. You're absolutely right. These things have many twists and turns, but it came back to Steve Cohen, David Stearns, and the Mets.
So do you think that period of time where they thought they were going to lose him actually generated a little bit more money than maybe they were willing to spend?
Well, yeah. I mean, they were at 720 for a long time, and they felt that was a pretty good offer. And the Yankees were slightly behind that, and they moved it up. But I don't think they thought they were getting them once they were. I think they might have done a little bit of a pit stop at 750 before 765. I think they'd heard they should be $50 million a year or more. I think Toronto was at 760 or something like that. So I think when they went to 760, I mean, they knew they had a shot. They didn't think they were dead, but I think they were generally pessimistic. They thought he'd be a Yankee, and I got to tell you, the Yankee people. They were fairly confident, at least some of them. There was some that said you never know how these things go, but, I think if anyone were going to predict, they were going to go with the Yankees at that moment, and that's the way it looked, even with a few hours to go, maybe 6 hours to go, but with an hour or two, I heard he was going to the Mets, and... it's a typical free agent, right? I think people compare it to Ohtani, but let's remember Ohtani is really a guy who loved comfort. He loved it in Southern California, and that's what he wanted to do. Even after the Dodgers said yes, he went back to the Angels, and they had said no at this point. He went back and kept trying to go back to the Angels. So, I mean, he's a guy who was going for comfort. I think this is a more typical free agent who wanted to be paid his value and wanted to set the market. And, like Craig Counsell did for the managers, he's probably at the press conference going to say, he was thinking about all the other players, that come after him. Although I don't know who the next guy is who's going to top $765 million. It's pretty shocking, but in a sense, it's not an overpay because there were three teams in that range.
Right. Now, we were just talking with Andy Martino, who earlier today had reported that Boris went back to the Yankees to match. As far as you know, did that happen? And if it did happen, it almost seems like he wanted to go to the Yankees. And if it did happen, why didn't the Yankees match?
Well, yes, Joel Sherman had that report as well, and that is accurate that he went back to the Yankees. If they had matched, I guess we'll never know ultimately where he would have gone, but they went back to match, and, I obviously was a little bit less in the money, especially with that extra year, but, little things like the suite, I think, really played into this. The Yankees never gave a suite to Judge and never gave one to Jeter. They buy their own suites, and I think they felt, how do we give a suite to Juan Soto? We're already giving him twice as much money as Judge, and Judge didn't say anything. Judge has been fine with this and has said, pay him whatever you want to pay him, and I'll be happy to have him back on our team, thrilled. But they felt that was a little bit above and behind. And that's, again, a suite. Depends on the suite, of course, but it's a little bit less than $1 million, I think, the ones I've heard about. And, they were probably willing to discount it or something like that, but they didn't want to, do something that they didn't do for their other star players.
And you reported about the security situation in April and May with his family. How much of that factored in?
It may have. He's not going to say anything. I asked him about it at the end of the season once they were out of it, and he, kind of acted like it was nothing, and he may even deny that it happened. I don't know, but everybody in baseball knew that something happened, and it was, I believe, his mother. One person thought it was his father, but I believe it was his mother was removed from some area, and he was not thrilled about it. Michael has been around the Yankees a long time, but my opinion is they have one or two that are overzealous security people who, they think their job is to hassle the families and the media, and it's really for security for the players. I think it was not the right thing. I'm sure I wasn't there, but I heard that he was quite upset at the time. Now, the Yankees, of course, being the Yankees, and they generally treat their players fabulously, and they really went above and beyond to try to make up for it and do whatever they can to, appease them. And they apologized, and I had been told, checked in several times about this over the last few weeks, and most people were suggesting that it probably would not be a factor in it, but everybody was aware of it, and the Mets were aware of it, and that's why they brought the traveling secretary to that meeting in Beverly Hills. And, he laid out all they could do for the family and all that, and they made it about the family. And so, I don't know that one incident did it, but it spurred the Mets to do something a little bit different. You wouldn't think the traveling secretary would be there with the owner's wife, and the general manager and the manager, and he was explaining how important the family is to them. And personally, I think the Yankees are generally great with family, but, it's an incident that it was not positive.
But it is interesting, though, John, if I can push back a little bit. If that was a factor, then why would he even engage with them? Boris goes back to get the thing matched. So if they matched, then it wouldn't have been a thing. It seems like kind of rewriting history to put a little different narrative on it, the fact that it just came down to money. And another thing I push back on when people say, well, it wasn't that much money. It's a lot of money. So even if they don't do the escalator clause, you and I love money, that's $3.5 million a year for 15 years. That's a lot of money. It's not a little bit of money.
Right. Yeah, no, there's no question about it. It was, there is a gap there. It is somewhat of a gap. It's not an enormous gap. The main factor is 760 and 765, but it's an extra year, right? Escalator clause, $75 million signing bonus. Certainly all factored in, and like most free agents, as I said, the money, the contract is a big deal for almost everybody, except it seemed Ohtani and Judge took less to stay in New York.
It doesn't make them a bad guy, though, John. I mean, this is their job.
Not. Absolutely not. There's nothing wrong with it. He earned it. He turned down the 440, and he wanted to go for what he felt he was worth, and that certainly was the major factor. That doesn't mean there weren't other factors that played in some way. I'm not going to say he was just playing with the Yankees, and he really had ruled them out over these episodes. No, but I mean, it was something that he might have considered. He'd probably deny it, but, it was something that everybody was aware of and something the Mets understood, and that's why they played up. I mean, I think they're good with the family anyway, but they brought the traveling secretary to this meeting. I mean, that's a little bit unusual.
Now, we had a caller who said he was proud of Hal for going as far as he went. You've got fans burning jerseys on the other side of it. How should Yankee fans feel, honestly, about losing Juan Soto?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Yankees went above and beyond. It's just that Steve Cohen and the Mets went a little bit further. I really wouldn't blame the Yankees. I mean, look at that offer. In present-day value, it's $300 million more than the Ohtani deal. Ohtani's an international superstar who brings in, I'm sure, over $100 million in sponsorship money, is a two-way phenomenon, is maybe the greatest player of all time and a three-time MVP, and it's $300 million above. So, I mean, if anybody's blaming Hal Steinbrenner, they're really barking up the wrong tree. That's not even close to something that should be considered. I mean, he tried to do it in season. It wasn't going to happen. I mean, he wanted to be a free agent, and that's the way it is. I wouldn't blame him for a minute on this one at all. And I credit Hal Steinbrenner for saving the Judge negotiation. They were at $320, and they matched and paid $360. Now, obviously, I thought that was a bargain then, but it really looks like a bargain now. But it's obviously he's 4 years older, but Judge is a two-time MVP. That looks like an immense bargain.
Talking with John Heyman of the New York Post. All right, John, so by signing Soto for what they did, does this preclude them from going after Alonso, or are they still interested in Alonso?
I think they are still interested in Alonso. I mean, they thought their big weakness was that they didn't have Judge. Soto loved Judge in the clubhouse, and particularly standing behind him in the lineup. I mean, that was a factor, too. Obviously, didn't win today, but that was a big factor, and I think that's the reason that they were negative throughout the last few days. It's like, what can we do? We don't have Judge. And at that point, they didn't have Alonso. But I've always thought that with or without Soto, Alonso's beloved by Mets fans. If you look through the crowds, half the jerseys are Alonso jerseys. Just
right.
As many Alonso as Lindor. And, I think at this point his market isn't anything like, it's certainly not Soto, but it's probably not what he was expecting. He had kind of a mundane regular season, but had a big postseason. But nobody's a bargain in baseball this winter. Last winter, maybe not this winter. I do think that the Mets have a good chance on that one. And to me, and, I know the Yankees are on everybody. They're considering everything. They need to get left-handed hitters, don't they? Obviously he's really good, but you have three big righties in the lineup with Stanton, Judge, and Alonso. I think they need a little more variation, especially in that ballpark. Not that Verdugo was great, but he's gone. Rizzo's gone, and now Soto's gone. Can you be that right-handed? I don't see it. I think, to me, Bellinger fits. I would even consider Carlos Santana and spend the money on pitching. Santander, switch hitter, fits. Alonso, to me, belongs in Queens.
Great stuff, John. Great work, and congratulations on having it first. We appreciate you coming on as always.
I appreciate it, Mike. You're the best. I always like all these kind interviews with you. You're a good man.
Oh, you don't like the nasty interviews? The confrontation?
Yeah, I don't know. No, I like kind. I don't know. Maybe I'm unusual in that way.
You deserve that.
All right.
We because we love you, so we're kind to you. Thank you, John.
Well, back at you.
Have a good time in Dallas. That is John Heyman. He's down at the winter meetings in Dallas. So interesting stuff. So he still thinks the Mets are in on Alonso.
Yeah, which is a little surprising. Well, I guess not surprising, right? I mean, you just see the way that the season ended, and I don't know if they are going to be interested in replacing Beatty at third, moving Vientos to first. I think a lot of Met fans would be excited if Alonso were to come back. But that's back-to-back interviews, Michael, in which we talk to very connected people that are kind of fighting back on that it wasn't all about the money. Largely about the money, but there might have been some extenuating circumstances. I don't buy it.
I don't either.
I think it's all kind of PR of a way to make it seem like the Mets did more than just overpay, that they were better than the Yankees in other aspects and all that. I don't buy it. I think it was all about the money. But we had two guys very connected that said that there were other things that might have played a role.
Well, I'm not saying where these people get their information, but I think Boris is so smart. He doesn't want it to just seem like it was totally about money. But as George Young used to say, when they say it's not about money, it's always about the money.
Well, think about this.
And again, it doesn't make him a bad person.
At some point, there is going to be a press conference at Citi Field introducing Juan Soto and his contract to the Mets. And I doubt very seriously when Juan Soto is asked, why did you sign with the Mets, that the first thing he's going to say is because they paid me more money.
Right.
He is going to tell you about the way his family was treated, and he likes the Mets prospects, and he loves the energy here, his relationship with Francisco Lindor, and all those things are going to be true. But it's definitely going to be a selling point that was the reason why, not the money. It's never about the money in the press conference. But we all know that happened.
Let's go to Evan in D.C. Evan.
Hey, guys. How we doing today?
Good. How are you?
Evan.
I'm doing well. Hey, congratulations, Peter. Guys, on your new journeys. I wish you all well. I'll be listening, so I appreciate everything you guys do.
That's very nice of you. Thanks.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I just wanted to talk about, man, Soto, Yankees fan, but look, I'm happy for him, man. The guy just got almost like $1 billion. I mean, I know taxes and everything. I can't be mad at him. He made the best decision for himself. One thing with Steve Cohen, I appreciate him. I think, if you're an owner, you got to be willing to spend, man. I mean, tickets are, expensive. I mean, you look at it, you're going to watch a team on Monday Night Football tonight that has an owner that charges outrageous prices and sells opium. And look, the team hasn't done anything in years. So, I mean, he's going after it. I got to respect it. So I wish Soto well. I wish y'all well. And one thing, Michael and Don, I don't know if you guys might remember this, but Ken Griffey, I remember he had a story about when his dad was on the Yankees and he felt like his family got treated kind of wrong. I forget the guy's name. I think it was Greg something. His kid was like taking infielders and they kicked it. Yeah. They kicked like Ken Griffey out of the dugout, and he always hated the Yankees for that. So, I mean, it might actually have an effect on Soto. If he has some run-ins with his family, but thanks, guys.
Let's say again. I'm not buying it. I don't know if the event ever took place, but if people say it did, okay, it did. The Yankee security people, in my opinion, are unbelievable. And when you have a public venture in New York City, there has to be high security. You have to be careful that people that shouldn't be there are not there. If it's so upset Juan Soto, why did you engage the Yankees in any kind of negotiation? So I don't buy it. So they went back. So now Joel Sherman also reported this of the Post. They went back and asked him to match. So it didn't matter that much. If you wanted them to match, then it didn't matter that much.
What are do we know any exact details of what the interaction was?
No.
Just something unpleasant.
Somebody was denied access to a certain area,
which, by the way, happens all the time.
And again, when you're securing Yankee Stadium, I'm sorry, I'm not making excuses for anybody. You have to be really vigilant.
No,
anybody can come in.
I think
and they don't allow it.
All of us have been in situations before where you're with someone who absolutely should get let in somewhere,
and they don't.
And
Right.
and then you're awkwardly like, "Hey, this is so and so. You should let them in." Mm-hmm. I see it happen with wrestlers. It
happened to Jim Dolan at Madison Square Garden. He owns the place.
Correct. So, that would be a ridiculous thing for him to hang his hat on. Although I will say, the suite thing is bizarre to me, too. I don't know who's weirder for it. The player who needs the free suite or the team who's not willing to throw it in?
But you know what? I think it's the player. First of all, we're paying you $50 million. If it costs $1 million for a suite, you pay for it. They don't give Jeter a suite. They don't give Judge a suite. You can't give this guy a suite.
But it is do I think it was a deciding factor? No, I don't. He was going to go to the highest bidder.
Yes.
But what it does do, Michael, good job out of the Mets. Hearing about that report, and what do? They made sure that when they got a chance to pitch their organization to Soto, they were up front to say, hey, your family's going to be welcome here anytime. They're not going to get hassled by security. It does allow other teams to say, the Yankees won't give you a suite? All right, we'll give you a suite. Oh, the Yankees hassled your mom? Well, you don't have to worry about it. Here's a pass for your mom. She can go anywhere she wants in the building. So it's not a negative to the Yankees, but what it does is open the door for other teams during the dog and pony show. Like we were wondering, why is everybody traveling to Soto, the pitch? those are the little things that I guess you could do to maybe acquire an edge if everything ends up being equal. But at the end of the day, pay me is ultimately what he wants.
Man, the timing, though, for this guy, man, the way
perfect.
What would you say right now? What number ranked offensive? Let's say offensive total. What ranked baseball player would you say he is in Major League Baseball?
All time?
No, right now.
Right now.
He's in the top 5.
Top 5.
I don't think he's better than Judge. I don't think he's better than Ohtani.
You can't go higher than 3.
So 3 the highest.
Right? 3 would probably be the highest.
Yeah, and then you can say, well, how about Bobby Witt and stuff, whatever. So he's in the top 5. But the thing, what you're asking though, if you're saying hitter, then he might be higher than 3. If you're saying player,
then it's 3.
Then it might even be lower than 3.
Right, maybe 4 or 5.
Because he's not a good fielder. And I said that when he was on the Yankees, so you can't say I'm a revisionist historian. He's not a good fielder. I don't care that he finished the top 3 Gold Glove. He's terrible out there. And he's good. Everybody's written it today. He's going to be a DH in 6 years. When he's 31, he's going to be a DH. And he's not a good base runner. He's an unbelievable hitter in the vein of Ted Williams. And that doesn't make him non-desirable because Ted Williams was a terrible fielder. But when you have a skill set that you can do like nobody's ever done, you become very valuable. And he's young.
And he's young, so the timing's perfect.
Perfect. Doesn't get better. Can't get better. Everything fell into place. Why? 26, unbelievable season. Team went to the World Series. He mastered New York and the Bronx, didn't fluster him at all. And he had the Yankees, Mets, Red Sox, Blue Jays, and the Dodgers. Bidding on him. I mean, he's got to talk about like an erotic dream for Scott Boras.
He's been playing in the league since he was 19 years old. He's got a World Series championship sitting in his back pocket already.
Right, so he doesn't need to prove that. Right?
Doesn't need to chase that. It was all there for him, man.
Yeah.